evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
It's definitely hard, especially when I don't have a lot of time to work. I do have a part-time job and I make minimum wage, so it's hard for me to work enough hours to get money and then have time to do my schooling.
We all want to be there with them, but we can just drop everything and be there. I wish I could. I wish I can have that passport. I wish I can have that ticket. I wish I could have a straight flight right to home. I cannot.
If you are a user or you know people that use, or you're aware of people that may be using opioids for medical reasons, prescriptions, whatever, you should have a naloxone kit on hand and available.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight at the University of Windsor, where an on-campus food bank is noticing more cash-strapped students needing its services. And as the CBC's Jason Vio reports, a big donation came just in time to help replenish the bare shelves.
First-year University of Windsor student Bushara Jamal is getting adjusted here in Canada after arriving from India.
After having a good financial stability back in our country, here it is starting everything from the scratch.
She's been having trouble finding a part-time job here and sometimes finds herself using the on-campus food pantry.
It's a huge struggle at the beginning.
The University of Windsor Students Alliance runs that food pantry and relies only on donations, and these bare shelves illustrate a new problem. It's been open for 4 years, and they're now seeing more students than ever before. Pre-pandemic, roughly 30 students per month came through. Now that's more than doubled.
We've noticed students coming to us for many reasons. Some students that find education can get quite pricey, living here, being on residence, being new to Windsor. Everything, again, gas prices are going up, so it gets really expensive. So having this to supplement your grocery trip just to help you with, again, these basic needs is the #1 reason we see students coming here.
Even for students who don't use the food pantry, the rising cost of food is still a struggle.
And a lot of it does depend on how much it costs. So it's difficult trying to find somewhere to eat good food that's also a good price.
To help replenish the shelves of the campus food pantry, CUPE Local 4580 donated $15,000, the single biggest donation they've received. The union represents graduate assistants and teaching assistants, some who have used the food pantry themselves. So what are some of the more popular items that students come in and need?
So some of the main ones we've been seeing is, one, vegetarian products. We do have a lot of students that are vegetarian, so that is the #1 thing we look for when we're grocery shopping.
The UWSA is holding a campus-wide food drive at the Student Center until March 14th for anyone interested in donating. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
Turning now to the latest in Ukraine. Russian forces are escalating their attacks on Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, and are now targeting other major centers. Civilian casualties are rising as residential areas are coming under intensifying fire. CBC's Olivia Stefanovich has the latest.
Ukraine under siege. Its emergency service says civilians are dying every hour, while hundreds of homes, hospitals, and kindergartens are destroyed.
We've hardly slept for 7 nights.
Ukraine's president calls Russia's bombardment a blatant terror campaign.
The time will come when we'll be able to sleep. But it'll be after the war, after the victory.
Russia, meanwhile, says nearly 500 Russian soldiers have died in Ukraine, almost 1,600 others wounded.
What is my arm? Yes, I have my arm in my hand.
Russia's military might dwarfs Ukraine's, but this former president says Ukrainians will never surrender.
And we are united and we have one enemy. And the name of the enemy is Mr. Putin.
We'll be fighting. It's every square, every street.
Those who can't stay are fleeing. The United Nations Refugee Agency says more than 800,000 people have gone to neighboring countries. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister met Ukrainian refugees in Poland.
It was very emotional, but at the same time, it made my team and I even more determined.
Melanie Joly told CBC News Canada is placing 10 new sanctions on Russian oligarchs who work in the oil and gas sector.
We want to make sure that we isolate Russia, and particularly Vladimir Putin's regime, economically, diplomatically, and on in every single way possible.
isolating Russia also the goal of a new resolution passed at the United Nations General Assembly.
Today, we call on Russia to stop its unprovoked, unjustified, unconscionable war.
A ceasefire is expected to be discussed when Russian and Ukrainian officials meet tomorrow morning for the next round of peace talks amid continued and intensified Russian attacks. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Ukrainian authorities have been calling on foreign volunteers to come and fight in Ukraine's defense. And some Ukrainian men and women living abroad are returning to their country to help defend their homeland. Windsor's Vladimir Vignan wishes he could be one of them. He says there are some personal obstacles in the way, so he's painfully having to watch from afar.
Kostya, дай Боже, брате. Слава Україні. Bombs. Bombs?
Bombs.
Bombs.
Yeah, Russian tanks.
So the person I was on the phone with, he's in Chernihiv, but I went to school with him, and he said the power is down right now. They're running generators, right? So
are they hiding in basements and bomb shelters there too?
Yeah. So his grandma's down in the basement. He put her in the basement. She's older, and he's up on the top, taking watch. You know, we all want to be there with him, but we can just drop everything and be there. I wish I could. I wish I can have that passport. I wish I can have that ticket. I wish I could have a straight flight right to home. I cannot. I haven't now been able to start the process of getting the passport. The reason why is because I don't have the proper papers, right? I'm waiting in vain and pain, you know, to see how can I help. There's ways, and I'm considering every single way possible.
So how does it feel to be kind of forced to sit back on the sidelines and watch?
Before you even finish your sentence, I already knew what we were gonna say. It's you know, it's heartbreaking. It's hard to even think about it, that I am here, right here, a beautiful day, you know, and there's people over there behind trenches and just, they're not even waiting. These rockets are just coming at them, you know, like innocent people, innocent cities, innocent little kids.
Lifting restrictions caused by one public health crisis causes troubling trends in another. Essex-Windsor EMS says overdose calls are on the rise following an alert last week. The chief tells the CBC's Chris Ensing there's a pandemic connection.
Emergency departments noticed a troubling trend last week, 8 overdoses in 7 days.
And it is concerning across the region.
Lifting pandemic restrictions could be fueling a health crisis communities endured before the pandemic.
Over the course of the last 2 years, 2.5 years of the pandemic, that as we start to open up and become, open up the community from the pandemic, bars are opening, people can gather, those types of things, we actually start to see that the overdoses are increasing. Why that is, I don't know.
What does that do for your service when you're able to track certain trends?
And it's more of an awareness that when we get called for either a problem unknown or somebody that may be found unconscious somewhere, it's a high probability that it is an opioid overdose, and then our paramedics can get prepared even before they arrive, that they have an understanding that it's more possibly that it could be an overdose, and they'll have the tools in hand to react.
That tool is a naloxone kit, and you can pick them up for free at a pharmacy right now. I spoke with a harm reduction worker who works at Positive Pathways. She says she wants to see them in more public spaces, but specifically wants them at hotel rooms and motel rooms, saying she's heard stories of people running up and down hallways, banging on doors, asking if anyone has one so they could reverse the effects of an opioid overdose. Now, Ontario is also pushing forward with a bill that would make them mandatory at bars and construction sites.
Sometimes construction sites are hard to get to, hard to access on an EMS perspective or a responder perspective. And again, minutes count. So if somebody has an overdose, and I don't want to stigmatize it that it's always substance abuse. It could be, I, Bruce Crowder, have some back pain and I'm taking drugs and I took the wrong one and I have an overdose. So there should be a naloxone kit handy that, just in case it does work to counteract the effects, it should be there.
Crowder says he'd like to see a kit wherever a defibrillator is. According to Public Health Ontario, at least 26 people in Windsor, Essex died of an overdose in the first 6 months of 2021. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
Saskatchewan saw a record number of deaths from drug overdoses last year. Fentanyl was behind most of them. Many families were left grief-stricken, and now one mother is talking about her loss to show others they are not alone and to encourage change. The CBC's Kendall Latimer has more.
And grace, not peace.
This past week marked a tragic anniversary for Lorene Pelche-Wessaquate. It's been 1 year since her son Clinton died from a fentanyl overdose.
I prayed for my son so much. I prayed that God would help him get better and help him to get off the drugs, because that's what he wanted to do.
She lost her son to the drug, and just days after he died, another call from the police, this time saying her granddaughter was also dead from the same drug. Nakia Sugar died just before her 16th birthday.
I couldn't believe it. I just started crying. I just lost my son.
Pelche-Wessaquate says the loss is devastating for their family, especially for her son's 8-year-old daughter.
I told her dad has gone to heaven, and she said, "Cookham, how can I get to heaven? I want to go see my dad."
The family is not alone in their grief. Last year, there was a record number of fatal overdoses in the province. 442 Saskatchewan people are suspected to have died accidentally from drugs. At least 300 of those deaths were from fentanyl of some kind. Pelche-Wessaquate faced her own addictions and mental health challenges. She says her dad was abused at residential school, and the lasting impact of that abuse trickled down to her, then her kids too.
And then they turn to drugs or alcohol, and then their children, then they have kids, and then it's like just goes on, and it has to stop.
She wants more supervised consumption sites in cities and more supports for people living with addictions and for families trying to break the cycle.
I'm trying to change that, and with my granddaughter, I tell her I love her every day. I encourage her, you can do this.
Kendall Latimer, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A former CBC journalist and humanitarian died yesterday. Mina Grossman-Ayani had a diverse career, starting out as a journalist and then a producer. She worked for both French and English programs. And during her time here in Windsor, she won 2 national awards. After her career in radio, Grossman-Ayani became the general manager of the Windsor Symphony Orchestra. Her leadership qualities earned her the Lieutenant Governor's Award for the Arts in 2001 and 2003. She was also the founding chair of the Erie-St. Clair Local Health Integration Network. Ontario's provincial election is exactly 3 months from today. The Ford government is facing criticism for spending taxpayer money on an advertising campaign that touts Ontario's economy. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has the story.
Across Ontario, more workers are joining the skilled trades.
This upbeat ad is part of a campaign called Ontario is Getting Stronger. The ad is appearing on TV stations across the province and debuted during the Super Bowl.
More jobs are being created. Bridges and highways are being built.
There are radio and online ads too, all praising Ontario's economic recovery, all funded by your tax dollars.
Paid for by the Government of Ontario.
So why is a government elected on a promise to respect the taxpayer spending public money on ads like this?
Ontario is getting stronger, and prosperity is something that we want to really focus on.
The Premier's office is refusing to say how much the ads cost, but based on past government ad campaigns, the price tag is in the millions.
There's an election coming up, and the Premier is using public money for partisan purposes.
Ontario's electricity system is more reliable.
It's not the first time that the party in power stands accused of using government money to boost its re-election hopes.
Household electricity bills will be more affordable, an average of 25% less.
This ad campaign from 2017 about the Liberal government's hydro plan cost taxpayers $5.5 million. At that time, Stephen Del Duca was in Kathleen Wynne's cabinet Now, he's criticizing Doug Ford for his government's ad campaign.
He could have used this money to boost confidence in the vaccine for our youngest Ontarians, and he chose not to. He chose to produce ads that were purely self-serving.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Lissick.
The Auditor General reviews all government advertising. Her take on the Ontario is getting stronger message?
The ads that are being put out are appear to be partisan in the sense that they create a positive impression of the current government, and they're really not specific enough to be useful for anyone.
You won't see or hear the ads anymore after the end of this week. That's because non-urgent government advertising is banned starting 60 days before the election campaign. And the campaign officially begins exactly 9 weeks from today. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's take a live look outside there. Tonight, not the nicest of forecasts. We're expecting periods of rain mixed in with some snow, but that should clear the way for a sunny Thursday tomorrow. Colette will be here after the break with a full breakdown. Stay with us. A special charter flight landed in Gander, Newfoundland recently, filled with some very important passengers. On board, dozens of dogs bound for their forever homes. The CBC's Garrett Barry has the story.
Meet Freya, a 10-week-old husky mix who's finally got some space of her own. Her journey to this SPCA was a long one. This weekend, her foster mom loaded her up for her flight from Goose Bay to Gander.
I've been doing this for well over 20 years, and I have to say that Freya was one of the largest puppies I think I've ever had.
That's an incredible thing. Born to a stray dog, volunteers think Freya may be the only one of her litter to survive.
The owners of the mother dog knew that the litter was under the shed, but had a hard time getting underneath it with all of the snow and the ice and everything. So they finally got enough room that one of the kids could get underneath the shed and get her out. Unfortunately, some of her litter mates probably didn't make it out.
It's left her a bit shy, but now she's a hit. All these puppies will get a good shot at a good home.
It's exciting, especially since we haven't had this in years.
Thanks to a collaboration between SPCAs in this province, dogs have moved from Labrador to Newfoundland before, but never on a private chartered plane.
We're way over capacity, and we've been having a hard time moving them lately with regular flights.
Since January, the SPCA has been taking in more than one animal each day.
We simply cannot humanly keep up with the application process.
So it was off to Gander and St. John's, where the waiting list for adoptions is long. Soon, they'll be on the move again, to permanent homes. But for now, these puppies are catching up on vaccines, checkups, and getting a bit of sleep. Karen Perry, CBC News, Gander.
Colette, before we even get to weather, those sweet little faces, can your heart even handle it?
Yeah, I just love that. And I kind of can appreciate some of the things with the transportation. I volunteer for a dog rescue, actually, and I've been on the transportation committee, but I just recently trained to be at the airport to greet the dogs as they come in with their flight parent.
What a great job.
Yeah, and it's very rewarding to have them come in, get out of the cage, and their forever family is there waiting for them. So love these stories, right? Okay, I don't know, maybe the next couple of days it's not the most lovable weather, but there'll be some sunshine, so that's always pleasant. It's just that I know some of us are kind of getting tired of the winter and the cold's coming back. But then a huge spike of temperatures into the weekend. So Thursday, having a look as that colder air sinks in. Doesn't last long for the Windsor area because by, Friday, we're back up closer to seasonal, which is about where we were today. And then Saturday, yes, it may be later in the day, but looks like we'll be getting into the teens. And then higher teens for Sunday. That'll be the end of it. The door will close behind this and it will leave us and colder air will come back again. But I mean that the timing lines up for the weekend. All right, there'll be some wet weather with that too, but here we go. A look at those current temperatures, current wind chills. We don't really talk about a wind chill unless the temperature is like freezing or below freezing, but still they will become more of a factor as the temperatures continue to fall through the overnight hours. So tomorrow it's going to be a cold start. If the kids are going to be heading out to the bus stop or making that walk journey to school, then make sure they're dressed appropriately. Because of the temperatures a little higher above freezing, it's more of a rain or drizzly mix that we're seeing here. Elsewhere, it's snow, mostly light around the Bruce Peninsula. Georgian Bay, there are some travel advisories there where it may be up to 5 centimeters, but otherwise we're talking about it being just a trace to a centimeter or two as this Arctic front goes through. Then we get that clearing and we go into the sunshine for Thursday, and then Friday it'll be kind of a split decision. I think we'll see the clouds coming in pretty early in the day, and then the big warm up will begin. So those snowfall totals, nothing too significant there, not looking at anything back towards Windsor, and overnight tonight, there's that wind chill tomorrow morning. I want you to be dressed for that. Then we go into Friday. We start that climb, and there will come with some rainfall, but still that big warm up into the weekend.
I can't believe those weekend numbers. Thank you so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, if you thought that we were all out of puppy content, you were wrong. After the break, we go to Cape Town and visit a luxurious doggy daycare hotel. Stay with us. A new doggy daycare in Cape Town, South Africa is taking it to the next level when it comes to pampering your pooch. Owners can check their fur baby into the luxurious Super Woof Hotel for a short or longer stay, complete with a spa, swimming pool, and sunbathing terrace. Here's a look.
I think more so now than ever, dogs are people's children, so they don't want to just be left at home to do nothing. Some of the key offerings we have is our splendid outdoor super sky deck. We've got a full table view mountain, the splash pool, not only AstroTurf but genuine grass as well, so the dogs have that natural feel, although it's in the city. Of course, we've got our handlers and staff on duty 24/7 to make sure that there's never ever a moment that a dog is being left unattended.
I would choose all of them, but I will have to just go with Stevie. Stevie's fun. Stevie likes me a lot. Stevie, when he sees me, he goes crazy.
We've got our customized lounges, which are absolutely delightful for the doggos. They really love sharing that space as a sleeping zone. They come here and get well spoiled, and just to make sure that at the end of the day they're knackered and happy when they go home.
I love that so much. Turning to another feel-good story, a young deer is lucky to be alive after a heroic rescue from icy waters in southern BC.
That one, right?
A local hunting guide sprang into action when he learned the deer had fallen through the ice. He managed to make his way to the struggling animal by canoe and get a rope around its neck to guide it to safety, and just in the nick of time. The young buck looked to be suffering from hypothermia in the frigid water, and after he pulled it onto the riverbank, he hoisted the shivering animal into his truck to take him home, and then made a hay bed for him on his front porch to help it recover. And by morning, the deer had scampered away. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.